Right, another type of price control that we're going to look at is called a quota, and in terms of a supply of a specific product. In order to understand why it's an issue, very, very briefly, we're going to look at a supply and demand diagram. We haven't talked about this, but when the market is allowed to sort of create a price and create a quantity without intervention, it provides us with a lot of extra utility or extra surplus. So you can imagine if the price is at P1 and you have a demand curve that's downward sloping, there's a lot of people up here that are willing and able to pay a price that's higher than market price, but they don't have to. That provides them extra utility. So you see this area in purple, okay, that's the extra utility which economists call consumer surplus that's gained, okay, by a price at market equilibrium. The flip side of that are suppliers. If the supply curve is upward sloping, there's suppliers down here that will be willing and able to supply whatever product it is at this price, but they don't have to. Because market equilibrium is this up here, that's the price that they get to charge. All of this area here provides extra benefits to them, called producer surplus. So when you look at a situation whereby the government intervenes and says there can only be a certain quantity, we call that a quota. The most readily accessible example to that's going to be, say, there's a certain number of taxis that are allowed to exist in specific cities. Okay? This is the quantity, okay, that is mandated by the government. Can't get over to here to market equilibrium. So at this quantity, okay, you go up, you hit the supply curve, okay, because that's the only people, and we have a situation where the quantity, that's all it is. But at that quantity, demanders would be willing and able to spend this price. So price actually rises under a quota. And what you see is consumer surplus dramatically shrinks. Okay? There's a situation in this case where we have all the demand that people would be willing and able to do at the market price, but it's stuck here. So this area in purple, if you can tell that, the area below the demand curve above the quota price is consumer surplus, much, much smaller. Producer surplus might seem a little bit bigger, and that's okay. That's one reason you will see taxi, what are called medallions, sold for thousands upon thousands of dollars from one person to another, because if you control the ability to have a taxi, okay, you're the only people that can do it. To society though, there's a little triangle here, okay, that exists that I've drawn in orange, okay, and that's lost. There's no surplus to suppliers, there's no surplus to demanders, it's what's called a dead weight loss. There's no benefits gained because that is gone. We exist from here over, okay, and you'll see that in your text, and that's called a quota.